Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera of Diamond Rivera Films, and you're tuned in to another episode of Live Discussions with Diamond. And today's special guest that we have here, New York's own, the ever amazing, the electrifying dancer on and off stage, the one and only Mike Movimiento Garcia.
Hey, what's up? What's up? Thanks for having me,
Yes,
man.
absolutely, my brother. Before we even get started, again, I truly thank you for coming on this platform, especially for me. This is very highly anticipated for myself because a lot of people don't know me. You go like way back. I'm talking about maybe 2005, even around that time. And you've been a person that has seen me grow up in this community just as well, vice versa, you being a little bit older, but always being a person that was very wise for a lot of us teenagers, um, realizing that we had a person like yourself to kind of fall back on, learn some knowledge, learn some tips and tools, and being able now to have you on this platform, getting that quality time of just kind of picking your brain and having myself, but also the audience gain a lot more perspective and understanding on who Mike really is, not just on the dance floor, but also as a human being.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and for me, a lot of people don't know, of course, right now, presently, you are the creator and director of Movimiento Dance Company. Is that correct?
That is it.
Yes. Before we at least get started going all the way from
Yeah.
the beginning, when was Movimiento, or what was the vision behind Movimiento being created?
I started Movimiento because I had so many ideas and just continuing the vision that Addie had with being theatrical and being creative and all these things that were just sitting in my brain and all these ideas that I wanted to bring forward, and really put my foot on the ground and put my name in some stone. Um, so it was really a push for that for myself at that point, and then it became so much more purposeful. So
Gotcha.
it was a huge journey and shift, and a lot of revelations came from that.
Absolutely. And when you just said Addie, we're definitely going to get into the story of Addie Diaz and
Yeah.
her influence on yourself and your previous work and experience with her. But again, I thank you for coming on the platform because we're not going to just touch on what you've done presently and what you're going to be doing in the future, but really getting the full spectrum of who Mike Garcia is, his roots. So again, you know, I really would love, as we do start, I would love for you to kind of really start from the beginning of your dance career and journey, and then kind of leading up to entering into Attitude with Addie
Yeah.
Diaz.
Well, once again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you giving me this space to, speak my story.
Mm-hmm.
I had all started in 1998. My mom wanted to take some classes. I was right along next to her. The classes were with CC Williams and Joe Delgado. May he rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat there. I wasn't interested in trying to do this class. I'm already doing sports and karate and stuff like that. We're not doing anything else. And these guys were working, taking classes and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I was like, try it. Me being shy, a lot of people don't know this. I'm super shy. Um,
Mm.
uh, I didn't want to take class, but I just learned everything in the back in the corner.
Yeah.
And I really kind of figured out what I was doing. And they was like, no, let's do it. And we can put you in kids' classes. We're going to take you here. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to put you there. And I didn't want to do it. I just wanted to dance with my mom. I'll hang out with her.
Yeah.
And we ended up taking class, and I was really going for it. It started to get good, it started to be fun. Then I got into the kids' classes from there, and I was with Lisa and Monica, and started to grow from that and really get used to dancing. And then we had to perform because as youth you do recitals,
Yeah.
end of the year performances, things like that. So that's when I got my first taste of being on stage, and I was like, this is getting interesting.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it from there. Shortly after that, I started speaking and talking to Aurelis Beato from Brooklyn,
Yeah.
Tropical Image Dance Company, dancing with her and her team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was a great, amazing experience. And that's when I first started to travel. So we're talking about a year or two in, I was already starting to dance on the performance team and travel with Tropical Image Dance Company. And we started going to international shows. I've done Puerto Rico, I've done Canada as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, kept going from there. Moved on to another team. I went to Revelation Dance Company, which was actually the dance company of the people that taught me my first basic.
Oh, okay.
That's when I met Carmen Taveras, which is a huge influence on why I was around Santorico. So I'm sure we're going to get to that at some point.
Yes, absolutely.
And from there, I moved into Attitude Dance Company.
Yeah, and
there with Attitude Dance Company. I can't.
I'm sorry, are you able to hear me now? Sorry, everyone. I think it kind of tuned out. Right now, we're going to focus on getting Mike back on the line. I think it was just a bit of technical difficulty. I think we have him back on.
Are we back?
Yes, we're good. We're good.
Great.
I know. It's just, no, I just saw you had tuned out, but and that's great because honestly, for me, my experience, I had originally thought that you were just working with Attitude and everything kind of went from there, but realizing the steps before that and realizing and people and talking to people like yourself, because I remember those moments that you danced with Arelis Beato from Tropical Image in Brooklyn.
Yes.
This woman as well at one point was dancing with Caribbean Soul.
Yes.
So we do see the correlation. When I just had my interview with Grisel and I talked about Arelis and the girls that were in that group, and then you realized a lot of these dancers that were in these notable teams at one point, adult companies performing, professionals, they now branched out. They came back to their home, and they were able now to create their own safe space, to create their own studios, and then help the children in their communities. And for me, you talked about Arelis, you talked about Revelation. There was also a school that I hold very dear to me, was La Salsa de Hoy in Brooklyn.
My home school.
Yes, and with Mike Rodriguez, a person that I know very well. And see, for me, it's like when you give one story, I'm kind of picking at it and like remembering people from here, because that's what it's about with this platform and having you come here and help me reminisce, because we, a lot of times as a community, we sometimes are only focused on the headliners of who we just see.
Right.
But realizing that the community would not be where it is in Brooklyn or other places if it wasn't for the other dancers that we sometimes don't speak of.
La Salsa was one of the foundations that really got Brooklyn going. Just for some perspective, my classes as I was growing up, right when the millennials started to change, and my class was Marisol, which is Adriel's mom, who Fever, and Latin Fever birthed Balmir Dance Studio. Arelis was in Caribbean Soul, as you know, but she was also with us in class in La Salsa de Hoy. Carmen, as I mentioned before, and she branched out and went to Santorico and became a phenomenal dancer. Even people like Jacob that were after me, and like I believe Brianna was around at that time.
Yes, Jacob Lugo, Brianna Rios. Yeah, and it's like
Crystal.
Yes, Crystal Nieves. Man, it's again like you're throwing these names, and I remember all of these people because to see them from when they first started, and then to see that their progression and their hard work and their focus allowed them to prosper and still continue.
Exactly.
And at least before I ask the next question, I think if you don't know, especially in this interview, I love to let my guests know that throughout the interview, I'm going to be giving or showing the comments that we have already. At least from Courtney, she's out there, as well as Carmen. Yes,
That's my big little sis.
Absolutely, and I definitely remember Carmen from her Santorico days. But again, it's very telling for you as yourself who've been dancing so long, since '98, to then go back and remember those people that were there from the beginning. Right. And as well, you got Monique here.
Partner.
Yes, we're definitely going to get to that beautiful partnership that you guys have.
Shout out
Oh
to
man,
too.
absolutely. And see, and it's true because to be honest, when it comes to, and I'm not going to lie, I think, in my opinion, when it comes to like the salsa dance companies, Brooklyn really can sometimes be forgotten in a sense, because you just think of the Bronx and Manhattan and Queens. Mm-hmm. But Brooklyn created so many amazing dancers, had so many heavy hitters, and the schools were ran, like you had so many different schools in Brooklyn, because Brooklyn is large in a sense. So you had schools in different parts of Brooklyn. But again, La Salsa de Hoy was a very good one.
Staple.
Yes. Besides that, like you said, Tropical Image. Mm-hmm. You had Balmia Dance Studio, and then you had Latin Fever. I mean, yes, Latin Fever. And realizing like, man, you just see it, with Marcus and Jose. And again, it's like you're realizing that again, Brooklyn really had these heavy hitters, but you can tell that they're training and they learn the right way.
Yes.
And that's very important, because again, the school that you start with won't be the school that you end with. And you realize over time you have to move on. So like you learned from La Salsa de Hoy, you moved on and branched off, and from Tropical Image, you were then able to get the perspective of traveling.
Yeah.
So that was the first, like, okay. And that's exactly the same with me, because me going to California for the first time for the LA Salsa Fest, that was my first inkling, like, okay, if I dance this and I dance strong enough and I have fun, I can come back here. And it was like, okay, at a younger age of teen, because think about it. I had a few guests that would say, from traveling when they were young and going back to their real world, like in school, and then telling the kids, hey, I just came back from here and here. And these kids are like, what? Like,
it's just different world. Even to this day, I still deal with how different the world is, from going back to work to dancing and being on stage and teaching. It's so different. Yeah, it reminds me of going from school and sitting in class, and it's like, do you know I was just in the Dominican Republic or something? Like, it's so different.
Yeah. And what I would definitely say is that one thing it did for a lot of us who were teenagers at that time was it actually, in a sense, it made us grow up much faster.
Yeah.
I would say that, and maybe not intentionally, but because again, we were surrounded by a world of adults primarily, and it was us teenagers or younger kids that always found our path around each other, and just like, oh, we saw you at this show, and we saw you at this show, and even though we might not live in the same neighborhoods, we're in the same dance community, and we're seeing each other, and now we can build friendships, because
that's how we knew each other. It's from like, oh my God, finally another kid. When I was I started dancing at Salsa de Hoy, and Carlos is the owner of that studio. Shout out to Carlos Vasquez. He's like amazing. Our foundations are strong because of that man. He will come upstairs with a microphone and a stick and make sure you were counting.
Yep.
Your 2 and your 6 better be on point.
Yeah. Oh my God. The 2 and the 6, and just like I had this discussion with Thomas that we'll get into, the 2 and the 6. Yeah. But you realize is that with those 2 numbers alone, that it will help your dancing so much more.
So much. And going back to being kids, when I was growing up doing this, there were not so many kid things or kid teams and stuff like that other than the Bronx. But me dancing in Brooklyn, there wasn't so many going on besides your youth program on the weekends that would happen. Mm-hmm. Even in fact, I was one of the only kids in the adult program.
Yeah.
So just now it's so different. It's teenagers, adults, it's everybody. Where back then it was like you did that. You were a child, you went to that program, you stuck to the adult classes if you're an adult, and so on and so forth. So even back then, it was like for me to be on an adult team was like that didn't happen.
Yeah, and my question definitely too is, from hearing this, is what was your honest opinion of being that teenagers you're kind of in this adult world? Was it an easy transition? Did you have people who were older were easy to like just take a hold of you and like, hey, I'm gonna take care of you? Or did you kind of feel like you were kind of alone and you had to figure it out for yourself?
To be 100% honest, shout outs to my momager, Mama Sharon. She shielded me from whatever was going on. I had no idea. She made sure that my job was to focus on dance and make sure education was on point and go. So if there was people talking or they were jealousy, I have no idea. She did an amazing job at making sure that I stayed focused and driven. Yeah. So those things have come up in my transition getting older. But growing up in this as a child or as a teenager into this adult world of dancing and performing and traveling, I can't tell you what she went through. Maybe we need to interview her.
Oh no! What you're saying is like it's so on point because, like you say, your mom is your mom who really, of course, you're always going to be your son. But now that you're entered into an adult world or a world that makes you have to be social with other people, you do realize, and especially in New York, I had this discussion with my guest last night from Violet Society, of that competitive nature that New York has, and also the clash that happens because you're also dealing with, like you said, you're now meeting other kids your age. Yeah. But then also there is that competitive nature and that kind of high school mentality that can brew. Yeah. Because again, kids are like, oh, I go to this school, or I go to this school. Oh, we're only seeing each other at congresses, and when it comes to applause, whose is more? And these are discussions that we've had. Me and you have talked about this over the years because the one thing that we've seen is teams and dancers come and go. Mm-hmm. A dancer is a dime a dozen. There's always someone new. There's always someone fresh. But realizing, too, is that with, like you said, your mom being that backbone from just in life, but also in your career, and she realizing that she had to, in a sense, not just protect, but shield you and distract you from the distractions. Yep. Because you realize that when a person is really dedicated and is going to put those 10,000 hours in to become better in their craft, you can't allow distractions or pettiness or just the silliness to seep in. And mind you, even with some of these comments, certain people who are commenting that I'm about to put up, even besides what's her name, Carmen saying Mama Sharon.
She gave that name, Mama Sharon.
Yeah, and yes, and even my boy here, Willie.
Really?
Yes,
another
man.
Dancer.
Absolutely. And you realize, like, when I saw his name, especially Willie being now, like, you know, a pro baseball player and doing his work and realizing, again, even though we were dancers, we had our own lives.
Lives outside of that.
Outside of it, because once we stepped off the dance floor, the Congress floor, and got back to reality, it was like, hey, now we got to deal. We still got to compact and deal with the stuff we're dealing with. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. Yeah. Is when you have a mom like you have that really is dedicated on your best interests, it's definitely beneficial.
My mom, so we were talking about discipline earlier and, you know, having to live this adult world. She prepped me with that because we were always in some type of activity. So I actually started with karate at 5. Gotcha. So that discipline was trained from early. I actually left karate school to dance.
Oh, I left baseball to dance. So I mean, it was always.
Yeah. So I've done sports. I've played volleyball. I've done baseball. I've done football. I've done those things. I've ran track at one point. Hated it. But you know, there was things that we've done, and I got used to traveling. And in karate, we competed and we went to different championships and regionals and nationals and things like that, pushing for the Junior Olympics and things, and qualifying for that. So the discipline was there. So I just took that and put it into dance. And when I realized I can travel, I was like, oh, we're staying.
Yeah. And see, and especially at your age, when you're especially a teenager, I still remember you being like, I thought you were an adult when I first met you, but realizing you were just a few years older than us and realizing that the responsibility that you were soon going to hold, because there comes a road or a point in every dancer's life where they're saying, am I going to take this serious, or am I just going to have fun and do anything else I want to do?
Yeah.
But at least before we get to that type of topic, a question I definitely have, and actually before we get to this question, the one and only Addie on here. This is again why, this is why I do these discussions, because it allows us to reminisce with the people that mean the most to us, and that were there in the stories of the people we're saying and the names we're dropping. They're actually watching to confirm and realizing like, hey, our stories matter. Yeah. What we have to say matters, because for so long we're just looked at as dancers who get on and off the stage, and there's so much more to us. There's so much.
We got to give Addie her flowers. I don't absolutely celebrate Addie Diaz enough. She has shaped the way I do business, the morals I have in this business. She has made sure I was safe and ready to go to continue pushing into the next chapters. She has shaped other people's lives in this business that are out here today still dancing. She is a force, and she needs to be celebrated as such.
Absolutely, man. I love Addie. I got to know her through you. And a question I definitely have is, when you started really performing or started traveling, especially you said with Tropical Image, was there any specific show that or performance or moment that you knew like, this is something I really, really want to do for a very long time?
Okay. Two of them. The first memorable show I had, I was in the kids company in La Salsa de Hoy.
Yes.
I had to be just turning 13. And we had a soul show at La Salsa de Hoy. And if you guys remember La Salsa de Hoy, if you haven't been, La Salsa de Hoy had 3 locations. Like, it was the studio here, A, B was on the second floor, and C was another dance area around the corner. Mm-hmm. So we had the social on the second floor of the other building. And in the other building, Revelation Dance Company performed, the kids company performed, which I was in, and Santorico performed. And I believe they performed Gangster that night. And I remember being like, what is that? I want to do that routine.
Yeah.
The second time that happened was, I was in Tropical Image at the time. We were going to Canada. Arelis remembers the story. We were going to Canada. We drove to Canada to Montreal for the Salsa Congress. And I remember running across like this field to like where this Congress was, trying to rush to make sure I saw Santorico perform. And at those moments, like, I'm in another country, my friends are performing, I recognize them, they performed at my studio that I performed at. Those moments was like, okay, I'm doing this is getting serious, this is real, this is fun, I'm traveling again. Those 2 moments for me were like pivotal moments. Never mind, I performed.
Yeah, it was just like, you kind of took yourself out the experience and said, no, I know what I'm about to do, but this is a lot. Yeah, I got me, but this right here, I need to keep watching. And again, that holds true for a lot of us, because we were teenagers entering into a dance community like this, again, that was surrounded by adults. But now we were getting to see those big names coming to our studios or coming to our communities and performing and showing us like, hey, if you work hard enough, you can become one of these members and you can do the same.
Right.
You know, and for me, I know you said like you went from Tropical Image and then you did Revelation with Carmen Tavares. And then from there was the transition to Attitude.
Yes.
So can you kind of give myself and the audience like the experience overall of Attitude and what you gained from it? And while you're talking, we'll definitely post up more comments that are just flooding in as well.
Going into Attitude was a big shift, because from Revelation Dance Company, when we were traveling, I was starting to learn Afro-Cuban at the time, and like getting all these different genres of dance. And I was like, oh my God, I'm awkward. How do I move my body? How do I get this together? Oh my God, I'm shy. People looking at me.
Yeah.
All these awkward parts of my teenage body going through puberty at the same time. But I had a dancer named Nidia Ocasio, who was my Afro-Cuban teacher. And she was another nurturing soul that was a part of us. Thanks, bro. My guy Pop. So from there, she introduced me to Attitude. We ended up running into them in Dominican Republic at a show when I was with Revelation Dance Company. And we saw this little guy hanging out by the beach, and he had this jacket that said Attitude. And I'm like, who's this little kid? So when I ended up later on auditioning for Attitude, I saw the little kid running by. I'm like, that's the kid from Dominican Republic. And Addie's like, you were there? And I was like, yeah, we were there. And that little boy was Devin, her son.
Devin Flores. Flores.
So it was an interesting transition because Nidia was teaching them Afro also. So Nidia put me with them. It's like, hey, she's a mom. She understands everything that's going on with raising a child, raising a dancer. You know, and balancing those things out. It's a really good home for you, nurturing and stuff like that. So we went to that audition and I got in. And from there, the dance part of that was learning routines, but like noticing the difference in routines. It wasn't just, and it's not a knock on anybody else, but Addie's just different.
Yeah.
Like, if you know her work and her repertoire, it's nobody looks like Addie Diaz. So these routines started to look like pieces that belong in theater. And the concepts and the vision that she was having was genius. So now it ups the performance level from doing material to like, you are that character that you're playing now. And that shift helped me grow so much and stay in character and be who that person is, consume yourself with that character or that piece is looking for. So I stayed in that for a long time. I stayed with Addie for at least a good 10 years.
And that's amazing because, especially like you said, with you evolving over time from each dance company, you were always searching for something. You were always searching for more. And like you said, which is very key, in my opinion, again, in the New York dance scene, what I started to see was a shift. And it was around probably the early 2000s for me, was early and mid 2000s, was the addition of theatrics into a lot of the salsa, because again, the salsa routines we're talking about, not bachata routines, because bachata really didn't pop until maybe the mid 2010s, especially in New York. But with the salsa routines, I remember going to places like LA or the New York Salsa Congress or Connecticut and other places that now you started seeing routines with people in different companies that they added different skits. They added things, but there was also a difference. There were ones that made sense, and there were ones that people were just doing to see if it could touch something. And it was a trial and error thing. But I appreciated it because you understood you were only going to get as far with your 2 and 6 if there was nothing to feed from. You know, meaning is you can do all the turn patterns you want, but if you don't look like you're having a good time and enjoying it, no one's going to enjoy your performance. And I've seen, especially, I remember the Attitude routines, and they definitely were very theatrical. And I love that because it was something refreshing. It was something new. At me, I love theater myself. So seeing now a Latin dance company of kids who were my age or maybe a little bit older, but I knew, and they were performing like they were the adults that I loved. And it was like, wow, it was amazing. And again, knowing that with Addie, her son, Devin Flores, to see where his trajectory has come from when he started, he put that work in and kept going. And that's something that, again, not a lot of the people that we knew back then are still around now. Because, again, this type of community or this type of world is like everywhere else, that it will chew you in and spit you out. Because you have to have and I remember having before we even get to like just our relationship and the talks we've had and the information I soaked in from you, because there were things I would definitely say I learned so much from you was being that ultimate professional, even before I became the professional, learning like you giving me the advice and telling me things and just being honest, because especially in New York, but in the dance community, we know, especially in New York, when someone performs and it's not that great, what is the thing that everybody says? Wow, that was a great job.
Yeah.
And the thing is, a lot of us know when you're being, in a sense, superficial, or you're just giving. I'm glad you got on the stage. And to me, I say this: I believe everyone who gets on the stage, I applaud them.
Yeah.
But there's also a difference between rushing yourself to get on the stage and then also being prepared. Yeah. And that was something I saw very different from yourself than a lot of other teams, even adult teams, were when salsa, the community and the dance community specific, started becoming larger and you saw schools everywhere, it was a saturation. And then when we had these socials, to be honest, it's like, hey, there's a dancer everywhere now. But the biggest key is, are you getting the education behind that?
Right.
Like you said, Addie, she's been in this so long, but she's teaching you the best way that she can. She's not just teaching choreography. She's teaching you how to be the ultimate professional.
Right. Exactly. And, going back to the honesty, growing up in New York, some people were brutally honest.
Yeah.
And being around people like Thomas or Nelson and, people like Addie, they told you what they thought. And
yes.
Even Arelis. And Nelson was like, what was that? Like,
yeah.
Like that, Ismael, if he had to say something to me, he'll tell me. He's like,
yeah,
fix that. Even recently with me and Monique, he's like, I don't like that part. Fix that. Okay. But we have that relationship because we grew up with that tough skin, working through it, and like really trying to hone your craft. They weren't nice to make you feel better. They was like, all right.
Yeah, and it's so true because even with the stories that I talk to people, especially in New York, some people know what I'm talking about, but some people are really kind of like, really? And it's like, yeah, we were young getting the tough love. Yeah. So then when we got to this point in our lives, we understood completely what they were doing. Because again, I tell everybody, when you're on that stage, you have a social responsibility to do something great for not just you, but for the person that's watching you.
Right.
Because I think myself and you, I've had a moment, and this is a story that not a lot of people know. There is a gentleman, his name is Victor. Victor, with Spirits in Motion, 3.0. Yeah. Yes. So Victor from Spirits in Motion, we had a talk. And remember, he told this story to many people, and I didn't know this was Connecticut Salsa Fest. And he told me watching me doing my performance with my guys got him to dance again at a point that he didn't feel he was physically there or just he could do it. And me and him having this talk and him telling people this and me literally learning this on the fly. And it was something I never knew. And realizing that even at no matter what age I was, even though I was younger, I always knew about performing that I wanted to do better each and every show. Not every show will be perfect because I don't believe, and this is my opinion, because just like I tell everybody, like even with the comments with Mike Bayo here saying, that's why he doesn't teach now due to the glut of teachers, going back to that. Again, these are our experiences.
Yeah.
And we realized that, man, it was rough. It was fun, but it was definitely a tough road that we needed because we needed to have humility.
I needed that. I needed people to tell me that it was terrible. I needed people to be like, Thomas, for a perfect example, I was talking on Facebook one day, late at night, and Thomas messages me and says, don't you got a routine to work on or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. When Thomas talks to you, listen, especially if you know him. Oh my God.
there's those people that were like, they really like, even Osman, like when I first started Movimiento, he was in front at Connecticut Salsa Festival watching me with Vitico. And I noticed that they were there. I'm doing my routine, and I got a head nod from Osman. Like,
yes.
Not a man of many words.
Yes, no. That is true.
Vitico was, good job. I was like,
yeah.
You know?
Because again, like we as teenagers, but getting older, and we realize that, you know, everybody gets older. You do, in a sense, kind of seek out the approval, even though if you say you don't, you do seek out the approval of the people after you, the people that you look up to. And for me, it's understanding that, hey, with us, we do care what other people think, but we also have that moment of, we're going to do what we want at the end of the day.
Right.
We're going to do what's best for us, but it's as we're receptive to listening to critiques.
Right.
Because there's a difference.
I'm sorry. And also, as a New Yorker, you had the pioneers in front of you every moment you went outside to dance. Rob, love you too, bro.
Yeah.
So you had the pioneers at the social. Like you can see Eddie and have a whole conversation with Eddie. Like, so you wanted their approval to make sure your stuff was on point. Like, am I good? Like, but at the end of the day, I still had to be me and be my creative self and do what I was believing in.
Absolutely. So then, when transitioning from, or even before you even get to Thomas, yeah, actually no, I really would love to get into that. Their connection with Santorico. Right. What was that like?
So the connection with Santorico started because I was dancing in Brooklyn. I took a break from salsa for a little bit, wrapping up high school, going into college. Addie was moving on with her career. The team was off for that time, and she, was working with her family and doing things like that. So I started to like, all right, I'm gonna try some hip hop, and I ended up with a dance group in Brooklyn, working with them, and they're working out of a middle school, and just managing them. Like, yo, you guys can perform. Brandon, what's up? And like, just teaching them, honing their craft and what they can do. And there was videos online and things like that. Carmen calls me, and she's like, I need to speak to you, this and that. I'm starting Santorico Kids up again, and would like you to be one of the instructors. And I'm like, this is gonna be fun. Yeah. Yes, I'm coming. So, I just did the same mold I was doing with hip hop and the performance aspect of it, and bringing it to Santorico Kids. So that's kind of when I was like officially introduced to, like, I'm not just this kid that knew people and hung around and was at other shows. I'm now, becoming a part of the family. And that's Thomas officially.
Gotcha. Because I mean, like, to be honest with you, even me having a connection with Santorico and Thomas, this was kind of towards the end. Like, I've always known of Thomas. Went to his studios to do socials. My dad went to his classes. I eventually took classes during the later time before they had closed the Harlem location.
Right.
But also realizing when I was in those classes, and people have to understand, when you're in certain dance school classes, just even taking classes, you are being watched at all times. Especially if they know that you were a performer.
Yes.
Because they're just watching to see what's your intention. Are you here just to take a class? Or are you here to keep going? And, for me, seeing that you were teaching Santorico Kids and just seeing now these kids' evolution was getting better, their timing was getting more efficient, and they were looking like adults more than adults.
Yeah.
And that was, because everybody knows Santorico, but now you have a kids program that you have control over, and you understand, like, the responsibility you have of making sure your work looks great on stage, but you still have to work with these kids that ultimately put your work out there.
Right.
They are a reflection of yourself.
Yeah, and it was also like a hybrid of that too, because it's like they're a reflection of me and my work, but still maintaining that Santorico brand and look. So having to learn Santorico's ways and how they taught and some of their material, just to be able to make sure that the kids looked the part and can hang with them. I won't give up santorico's formulas and methods and stuff.
No.
But there's ways that we've done certain things, and I have to give a lot of credit to Bridget as well.
Yes. Oh my God, Bridget. Oh man.
Bridget was like those kids, the drill sergeant.
Yes.
My role with the kids, especially when it came to starting to perform, was kind of the nurturing side and like the coach. Like, okay, when you do this, they mean this. So I want you to fix this. What did they tell you earlier? I still see it too. So don't go to rehearsal looking like this. And like really starting to push them and hone their craft and like polish them while they were learning those the material and the steps and performances and stuff. And like even tricks, like them having to get comfortable with tricks, because I was a kid having to do tricks as well. And I had adults that I'm like throwing on my back and stuff.
Yeah, you are in control if they land on their face or they land on their feet.
Yeah.
You know, so
a lot of confidence building in them as well, besides just the material. So that was kind of more of my role. Bridget was really on them with the material and stuff like that. And then the community came in with Carmen and Iris. That was really, and Iris is Julie's mom.
Yes, and that's the thing, and I love that the names you're putting out there, because it was truly like the one person I could say, if it wasn't for Tom, and not even just Thomas or anybody, it was Bridget. Because I remember me going in there and she being the main one looking at me saying, you know you're going to be here, and you know you're going to work, and you know you're going to do this. I was like, yeah, I'm doing on my terms. But having the opportunity, because I think did you do the last show that they did in Tino Towers? I believe it was like the gangster. I think there was some.
Yeah, I watched them rehearse for it. I wasn't able to be there. I believe I had a prior engagement or a show or something that happened, but I was there watching them put the whole thing together.
Yes. Yeah. I know that production piece and I was thankful to be a part of briefly in it. It really just like, it had to sit like yourself. You had to kind of step back and say, wow, look at all of these routines. And they're allowing their students to now perform this and realizing the legacy that it leaves behind. But again, you also realizing that you went from your tropical image to your revelation to now attitude to now teaching with Santorico kids, getting that knowledge from Santorico as the pros. And again, you becoming part of that family.
Yeah.
And realizing like, hey, being a part of this in any capacity means a lot, but even at your age.
Yeah.
Because most people think you have to be much older to be a teacher, but you've been doing it so long, you've been training already. Your teachers before you were training you to get to that point. And for me, it's like, hey, and I'm going to say this now, just like this comment I'm about to post. In my eyes, I see you as a legend a lot. I see you, even Rob Grisco, like Mike is a damn legend, and quote me on that. And I'm definitely gonna expand on that, because then we're also realizing after the Santorico, I believe after you had kind of moved on from that, I believe you had started the Movimiento Company. Am I correct?
So before we get into that,
yeah,
because a lot of things were happening at the same exact time. I was really busy.
Mm-hmm.
So Santorico and like the kids, the program was going, but I was also starting to work with Side Street kids as well.
Gotcha.
That relationship came because of Addie 2 Dance Company was rehearsing at Side Street at night. So I built a relationship with Side Street kids. We've done, performances and things like that. What's up,
Rocky? I know.
So, working over there, I ended up working with the kids there as well. So I'm doing hip hop there. I'm doing hip hop at Santorico. So I'm Manhattan in the Bronx, doing that. So that was a really big relationship I had right before Side Street Kids ended up closing down. Working with them in that family and that nucleus and seeing how they ran things. So I was getting a little bit loose,
Yeah.
So working with them, I was learning how different teams and schools functioned and, learning a little bit and taking it and giving each person some of the gems that I was picking up and learning as well. Because I'm not selfish. I share what I know.
Yes.
Because it's not easy. Especially if you want to be in this for a long time. It's not easy trying to do this for an extended period of time. The shifts. So yeah, I had santorico going in all of those at the same time.
Yeah. And so for you, what would really the valuable lessons that you can say you learned from being a performer to now being a teacher?
Uh, they're different. And it's just, you have to be able to adapt to each thing. Because being a performer, that was kind of more for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then being a teacher, I started to realize I did a lot for the people that I was teaching. But at the same time, even though I thought the performance was just for me, I was giving a lot out to the audience. And
Yeah.
performances can do a lot for people as well.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Angel? Thank you. um, so I learned a lot more appreciation from just starting to teach people, and it made me a stronger dancer because now I have to be completely on point. Never mind before, but like really knowing what I'm talking about, and then understanding, and which I learned this from SSK, and I still say this to this day. It's more than dance. It ties into your character, your personality, and the people that are coming behind you that are watching you, and you may not even know that they're watching you, and what you are putting into their lives. Responsibility is another big thing that I've learned.
Absolutely. And this is a question that for so long, I know we've talked about privately, but what, for me, I'm not going to lie, as growing up as a dancer, I love the community, but also a big problem that I had, and I felt that there really was a division between the dancers that you saw that were physically fit and the dancers that were a lot more either heavier set, husky, because I definitely felt that microaggressions growing up.
Yeah.
Because and I'm not gonna lie, this is full transparency from my experience of people saying, "Man, I loved your show, but you should lose a few pounds." And having an adult tell me that, and it was that tough love of, maybe I tried to distract it and just say, "No, they didn't mean it like that." No, they did. It was just they meant exactly the way they said it.
They don't know what it does to you in the after that, though.
Yes, because again, we especially in media, you get the sense that there's a certain look, and especially when it comes to salsa dancers, and many times when you saw films or different shows like American Got Talent or So You Can Dance, there was a look to how dancers are supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I did see, especially in our community, people like myself, people like you, and so many others that really it didn't matter. It was what you did on stage and the impact that you left off stage.
Yeah.
And for me, it was realizing like, hey, there are dancers of all shapes and sizes. There are dancers that truly give it their all on stage, and you need to look beyond the image and understand the person.
Yeah. A few things. Earlier influences with that was Mambo Mamas and Papa Mario. We look different. We're all different shapes and sizes, and people need to get used to that and deal with it. So seeing people like Encontrason, Bridget was a part of that team at some point. And I saw this beautiful Afro-Latina female that beautiful on stage. I loved her. She was a thick, heavy girl, and she dropped right down into a super slow, controlled split. And I was like,
yeah,
oh my God. So just seeing things like that, it's like, okay, people are out here. I've always been super tall and a big guy. My entire dance career. I've heard, you need to lose weight. You need to do this. You need to do that. How are you not doing this? And it's just like, mind your business, number one. You want to keep it real.
Yes.
So in New York, I still got a little bit of,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, those little things, those comments and stuff sit with you. It becomes your choice with how you deal with it. And people forget that this dance is community and communication.
Yes.
They get so caught up in image that they're forgetting the roots of what this really is. So I stuck to that. the New Yorker in me, and the second part of that is I'm not going to give you a chance to put me in the back.
Yes.
I'm going to perform, and if you put me in that back, you're going to regret it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to outdance everybody on that stage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt inside, because I didn't want to be the guy that was, all right, well, we have him, so we have to put him on stage. No, there's a talent here, and I fight for it, and I work hard.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely.
Now, I do think that we need to make sure that we're healthy and that we're capable of doing our job and executing it well.
Yes.
So we'll leave that there, because make sure you're able to do your job. And to be completely honest, I've picked my partners when I started Movimiento because of the stereotypes and the media doesn't accept this, or people. I picked my partners as, not to say like the misfits, but like the people that you wouldn't expect to see on stage.
Yeah.
But that were super talented and can hold it down. You know, we had people like Megan and Monique. I've watched Monique be in the back, and I was like, that girl got something special back there. Mm-hmm. Megan was different. When we were in Attitude, that was a different human.
Yeah. No, this woman, like, really, like, I loved Megan. She honestly was just honest. She was upfront. She would tell you like it is.
Yeah.
And when she's on stage, you're drawn to her. But also, like you said, you went from Megan to Monique. And having two females that are just like, they own the stage, because we realize, especially in our dancing, and like we did talk before about the image of body image. It was something that also Mike Bello said earlier, was Mambo Mamas. And we realized that people like Abby Plotkin, who would have her own socials as well, realizing that she was also one of those pioneers that helped bridge that gap of accepting yourself. Yep. And we realize, again, body positivity and body image is in all communities. There's always deficiencies and people having, just a mental lacking of what they truly appreciate, because, it does hurt a lot when you are younger or even older, when you can go on stage and give your heart out and somebody can give you a critique like that. But you also have to understand is that, hey, you're in a world now that you're seeing from the full spectrum, 360. Yeah. And people are going to say things you love and people are going to say things you hate. Yeah. And also people, when you do have companies, are going to love the partners you have, but also hate the partners you have. Because they also see, the problem is a lot of people see a vision for yourself that they are not able to obtain.
Yep.
So they're trying to mold you. And sometimes there's a difference between advice and literally like, you need to do this.
Yeah. One of the best things of advice, in full transparency, I was on a gig with Nelson in Trinidad, and he was like, listen, if you want to continue doing this, make sure you stay healthy. We want you around doing this for a long time. So make sure you stay to the point that you can do what you have to do and do what you love, because we know you love it and you know you're good at it. So there's a big difference in giving advice like that versus pointing in what you need to do and you should, because that's how they see it.
Yes.
So, and Nelson's been another figure and another pillar that's
absolutely
ever with me.
And for me, and that kind of leads me now to understanding your creation of Movimiento, the vision behind it, and what you've been doing from the past, the present, and towards the future.
Yeah. Movimiento was, Addie, when she decided to dissolve the company, she wanted to push me forward and to build me up and like continue the company on in that way. But Attitude goes down, Movimiento rises. So I had this company that I was coming up with. I had these routines that were literally, I was dreaming of these routines, and they would come up and I would like do it on the floor. So it's like, I had to like do something with this material. And Addie, as beautiful as she is, she turned the entire team over to me, moved the dancers over, and was like, if you guys want to continue going, you're going with Mike. Yeah. And her next chapter of training me became the business and how to work it and how to do a contract, how to get shows, how to network. You need to start dressing up in suits and doing business attire if you're going to be meeting these promoters. Know who the promoters are, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she really molded that. And, you know, she always told me to be different. You have to stand out because there's a sea of dancers out there doing the same exact thing, and they're all talented.
Yeah.
And it was just trying to figure out that niche for me. And we started out with routines, and I started out with like basic standard mambo routines. And then I started to realize, yeah, it's time to get different.
Yeah.
Just let now, let's go, because what are we going to do? And in the end, you know, a lot of trial and error. I had my student team, I've had the performance team, and then we dissolved down to Mike and Megan. And with Mike and Megan, we were able to just have fun. Listen, we're different, we're awkward, we're two different races, you know. And how are we going to make this work? Well, the only way we're going to make this work is to be ourselves. And that ended up being the beauty of what we had, because she's coming from a ballet background, super trained.
Yes. And I'm
trained. So it was like, how does this work? And me and her talking, we're going to take some risk. So I want you to do this layout right here in this routine. What? And just being able to take the risk and see what the reward would be, because, you know, at first people were looking at her like, she's going to do salsa.
Yeah, and no, and like you just said that, to be honest with you, that is the stereotype that people have. Because sometimes people just, it's the first impression before even the person gets on stage, and you assume what it's going to be like. But in reality, it's more than what you thought.
Yeah. So she was able to bring a lot of grace and poise and beauty to the stage, and I brought a lot of the raw energy to it. And we had a ball. I mean, we did blues on stage.
Yeah.
And thank you, Mo. You know, we've done cha-cha, we've done salsa, like we've incorporated so many different things to stay to the point that people had to guess what was coming next. They wanted to sit down and watch what we were going to do next. And we wanted people to be at the edge of their seats with what we're going to do. And Luz was a huge player. Thank you for believing in us, because you made sure we were at your Congress every year with another routine. You gave us what we needed to make it happen. So thank you.
Absolutely. And for me, realizing, especially now, like you said, you did your work with Megan, and then you transitioned and now are working with Monique Richard. And to be honest, I've just seen, again, the trajectory. There really isn't a flat, and it just keeps going up in the creativity and the fierceness on stage, and realizing that even as you're getting older, you've also gained so much knowledge and wisdom and understanding on what feeds the crowd that it keeps getting better, in my opinion, because in reality, we realize this, especially in our dance community, the people of before 10, 20 plus years ago, a lot of people aren't dancing anymore. And now it's really a game of who has the most tricks, the most flips, the most turns. And this is a reality, and these are conversations that myself and you and people like Rob Briscoe and Matthew Rivera have had in the rooms, because we understood, we were there when the transitioning was happening. And we were fortunate enough to say, yo, we all understand what's happening. And now we realize that, okay, we have to start to evolve. We can't lose ourselves. But we do have to agree and admit that times are changing. And now people are looking to see more.
And it's also finding who you are in that. I've done tricks the whole first half of my dance career. And I was like, listen, no. I've had mini ones, little smaller ones and stuff like that. Love you too. But it's like, I want you to see the dance. Like, I don't want to make this a cabaret show, and no disrespect to anybody that's cabaret, because I watch and love cabaret. But that's not me. I have to be true to who I am as a dancer. And I can be just as good on stage without having to throw 45, 50,000 tricks into a routine. I think if you're great at that, do that, because there's a space for that, and we love you for it. That wasn't my place. That wasn't what I felt like that was for me. I wanted to give you a show. I wanted to have that, bring that DNA forward from Addie, that's giving you theatrics, giving you a show, giving you a full performance from me, where you can feel me, my energy, what I'm emoting. So yeah, that was a hard, fork in the road. It was like, do I really want to continue with the tricks? Do I not? I can do some here and there. So it was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And it's, for me, it's if the music calls for it, if you're feeling it there, not just because it needs.
Yeah, and again, Monique says no. And again, it's like, and I appreciate what you said, because again, when we're talking from the experience and opinion, we're talking about our experience of watching these shows and realizing, like, hey, there are groups and teams that elevate that type of realm and can do the tricks and turns and flips. But then again, they also realize that now, if you don't have that much creativity, after a while, people will notice. And people are going to say, wow, that routine looks very similar to the last routine you did. And that's because because evidently what happens is the people who are just focused on the crowd and the applause, they gauge the applause on their routine and say, all right, I seen this group do this, and yeah, we need to do something like that.
Yeah.
But that something turns into you literally copying. And this is a problem we've had, and I've talked about this in my other interviews with people, because I've had these discussions and I've actually seen it. And realizing that a company like yourself with Movimiento, how important it was to still keep the creativity.
Yeah.
And working with a person like Megan, working with Monique, and seeing, especially with you and Monique now, I think you guys had just did last year, was it Mambo Land?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, like me watching and just seeing, like, man, you guys are amazing. And just seeing you guys are now, again, your branch is New York. Is we love New York, but we always want to get out of New York. We always want to travel and show people what's new, what's fresh. And, you know, for me, this kind of transitions now into kind of my closing remarks, and also giving you appreciation, because recently, or the past few months, something that, I mean, and especially with COVID going around, things are very stressful. But what I love seeing was that you took all of your experience from all your journeys, all your traveling, and you turned that into your own personal travel vlog, called Mike on the Move. And this is something I actually love watching every time I get a chance to see it, because it helps me as a dancer, as a traveler. But I would love for you to give the audience more information on what is Mike on the Move.
Mike on the Move is a passion project of mine. I have always traveled my entire life. And I don't talk about all of the places that I've always been, unless it's like from some dance, but I've been traveling since before dance, since before being in karate and everything. So I wanted a place that I can have that outlet, because I'm more than a dancer. You know, I have a creative mind and I do a lot of different things. I went to school for film and communications. I tried to do piano for a while, but dance took over that as well.
Yeah.
I was in the music industry for a little bit. I was an intern. I started as an intern in Def Jam.
Wow.
So I just needed another place to express my creativity, especially while dance is going to be on a huge hold. And a friend of mine told me, you should have a page for all this stuff. You have good ideas and tips and tricks and stuff like that. So Emma was a friend, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And I finally gave in and did it, because I was like, oh, that's work.
Yeah, it's that easy.
I started the Instagram page first, and I was like, I really got to figure out what I'm going to do for content, and talking to my friends and trying to figure out what I was going to do. And then it just started to come to me, and I started to film episodes with tips and tricks from that. And then during COVID specifically, I was trying to like post like a link to where to find the products that I use. And from the competitive world and the dance world, I don't like being told no. And an affiliate program that I wanted to work with was like, no. And I'm like, so you're going to stop me from putting the products that I use that's from you? You know what? I'm going to build a website. And I'm going to put my product up because I feel like that. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I bought the domain immediately, and I was like, what am I doing? I just bought a domain. I don't have anything I want to say. And I was like, okay, you got to stick to it.
Yeah.
And in a week or two, I built an entire website with the places I've been, writing all the blogs of all the travels and stuff and the things that I was doing, content, products that I'm using. I bought a animated character logo. I purchased a logo for myself, and I was doing that, and I was like, oh my God, I have this whole like new world that I've done, and it became a passion project. Right before that, I was working on Movimiento stuff.
Yeah.
I, believe in pushing forward and doing even more things that are not just on stage, because I've been doing this for 22 years at this point. So it's like, so let's make things fresh. I've hit a lot of the goals that I wanted to do, where it was movies or a music video, dancing in certain places behind artists. I've done it. So it's like, what can I do now? So I was like, merch. I'm teaching a lot more. I'm traveling a lot more. Even now, I'm teaching a lot of privates with a lot of people and doing a lot of like other behind the scenes stuff in terms of production. So I was working on merch for Movimiento Dance Company and the travel stuff at the same time during COVID. So I've been pretty busy with stuff like that. But yes, Mike on the Move with an underscore at the end if you want to follow, or you can visit travelsbymike.com.
Absolutely. And then it's amazing because, again, even through these hardest times, to see a person like yourself still with that competitive nature, knowing that you can't just stay still.
Right.
You have to still build your brand, even when you don't see, if you feel like you don't see a horizon over the hill, and realizing like, hey, you got to keep at it because there's always someone new that, again, will just go right above you. And
Speaking
again,
of that horizon, when I started dancing with Monique, by the way, before I even say that, Monique found me. Monique found me. And we talked about, dancing together, and it wasn't the right time back then. I was still like in the peak of Movimiento, like in its growth. But I never forgot about her because I love social dancing with her. She was so dope. She's fired. She was beautiful. So when Megan decided to step away from performing and retire, because her career is way longer than mine.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I know exactly who I'm going to call. And me and Megan were having a conversation. And I was like, I got to call Monique. And Megan was like, I love it. Let's talk to her. And, we went from there, secretly having meetings on the side. Nobody knew anything was happening or the transitions was coming. And I went at Monique because it was time to see somebody beautiful, chocolate, and fluffy on stage, just like me. Because, I gave you a nice little sidewinder with Megan, but you haven't seen the punch yet. So now that I have Monique as my partner, like pushing self-love, your identity, your acceptance of these things, and being just as dope on stage as everybody else.
Yeah.
So, that was another reason why that competitive, that push, it's like, you're going to see what you're not used to seeing on stage, no matter what. I'm not Addie where I can put like this whole production stuff. Like, that's her gift. Yeah. But I will put what I have inside me on stage.
Absolutely. And again, it means so much because your experiences matter. What you've gone through matters, and you're seeing that, hey, I realize that I would love to see more representation of people that look like me and women that look like her to be able to go on the stage. See, we have Aurelius on here, and even Monique saying, again, I loved it when I saw the collaboration. I knew it was special. I knew that it was something needed because, again, I'm also a spectator, and I listen to the conversations that a lot of women have and saying, I want a woman that looks like me, that has the curves like me, that we're still fierce dancers no matter what. And, it's great that, because, again, you guys are not a novelty. Right. You guys are really dedicated dancers that have been doing this for years. And, I'm thankful that I was able to see you guys perform at those times. And I know in the future, when things get better, you guys will electrify the stage again, but also now seeing your growth of just being an entrepreneur and building your brand, not just from dance, but outside of that, and realizing that now your venture with your traveling and the vlogging, it really is beneficial, not just for you, but the people that watch, like myself. Right. So again, I've really, tonight's been really an amazing discussion, us kind of going down memory lane. And look, even Monique agrees, not a novelty. Right. And that's something I've always wanted to tell you personally, because in our culture, when people see something new, they consider it a novelty.
Right.
but that disregards the effort that you guys have put in. And it's time that people like myself that have these opinions and statements, I stand by my truth when I say that you guys excite me a lot more than a lot of dancers that I've met, because the genuineness and the hunger is different, So for me, it's like, I truly am thankful that we can have you. And at least before we close out, I would love to know if you can give myself or the audience some last few words from you.
Believe in yourself. I've danced with a lot of people. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Be you. Know exactly who you are. Find an anchor and push. You need some type of stability in your life, and go from there and shoot forward and stick to it. It is hard. I have started over in this business 3 or 4 times, from child little star to like the teenage life, and then being an adult in this, and then rebranding, and then rebranding again.
Yes.
Like, it's hard, but if you stick to it and you're true to yourself, it comes true no matter what. Jay-Z, not to be Brooklyn and New York, but
or Def Jam, not to be Def Jam.
If you feel like you made Hove, then make another one.
Yeah.
So I kind of stuck with that in myself. It's like, well, if I thought I was dope then and that's ended, then keep going and do it again, because you know what to do.
Yes.
It's work. You have to be willing to put in the work. Me and Mo always speak about this. We have to work twice as hard to be just as good.
Yeah.
And we work that way, and we think that way. And Monique's talent and her training is so superb. And then me working a lot with the business and the networking and knowing people, and us introducing each other to different people and networking and putting it all together. It's a beautiful match. And you want to find that with whatever you do, whether it's a partner or you're solo, and your connection to something. Find that anchor that you can connect to and go for it. Believe in yourself until people see what you're doing, because they're not going to see it necessarily right away. That horizon is not always there to look like, okay, I know what's coming on the other side. There's no light at the end of the tunnel until you get to a certain point. So you have to keep pushing forward. Even with you, shout outs to you for doing this, because people may not see the vision yet, but you know where you're going with it. So
absolutely,
keep going with it, because you're building, and you've built fast.
Yeah, and again, it's I have to still give ode to people like yourself.
Thank you.
For me, because, and I say that not just saying it vaguely, but again, having those talks with you throughout the years of you checking up on me, asking me, what are you doing next?
Yep.
I remember you asking, so what are you doing after this? Because I know what you're doing here, but what are you going to be doing after?
Yeah.
And it always stuck with me as people like yourself and others that really were focused on knowing my end result and what I wanted to do, because it's easy to just say I want to do this. But then when I say I want to do it and you see me in the future, am I focused on that? Or what am I doing? Because you can't stay stagnant. You have to push forward. And again, it's the words that you just left us with, they hold so much weight, because you've been through those experiences, you've been through the trials and tribulations, and you know that the road isn't easy, but you know what you can gain from all of the hard work you put yourself through. You understand all the success that can come from it, and you're willing to take on all the obstacles that present yourself and Monique. So for me, it's like, I love, especially for me, even with this interview, looking at the comments of Aurelis and Willie and Luz and Carmen, and just seeing like, yeah. And it's like, you realize, again, I do this platform especially because for me, I see this as a historical moments of interviews, because long after we are gone, this type of footage will still be available in some capacity. So at least your family can say, hey, let's look at Mike and this interview he did years back or decades back, and see what type of person Mike was. Because it is important that we have this type of information from people like myself that want to hear from people like you. Because I've talked to you on a deeper level, but not everyone else understands. And understands all of the wisdom that you impart in many of us and help shape us. Even though you don't see it, you didn't see it before, but now you can see. It's like, just like you give Addie her flowers, I have to give you yours.
Thank you.
Because, you know, again, in the conversations I'm going to have with more guests, a lot of them may think that they didn't get the appreciation, but this is the platform where I can tell you, no, you do get the appreciation from the people that matter.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's again, I really thank you so much, Mike, for coming on. And like I tell all my guests, this is our first interview, but I know it won't be our last. And later this year, I would definitely love to have you back. We can check up on you, see how the Movimiento brand is doing.
Yeah.
When things do get a lot better. Yeah, even Mike Bello is like very inspirational. Because again, it's like, you know, you realize that when people see you for more than just a dancer, they see so much beauty and honesty and knowing that you're just a human being like everyone else.
Right.
You know, so for me, it's like, I thank you so much. I do hope you stay safe out there. And again, before we go, can you just give us some quick contact information so how people can reach you?
Yeah, you guys can reach me at, my email is movimientodanceco@gmail. You can reach me on Facebook here, Mike Movimiento Garcia. You can catch me on Movimiento Dance Co. on Twitter. I Dance for Donuts is my personal page if you want to talk to me there. And also the Mike on the Move with the underscore at the end for the Mike on the Move stuff. And travelsbymike.com is my website if you want to read my blog, all the stories and the craziness that happens to me while I'm traveling around the world.
Absolutely, and I'm appreciative of you having you on the platform, and also for me being able to say, hey, I would love for you to share your work, because I always think, I know it always goes two ways, because just as I appreciate you coming on this platform, I want you to share your successes and share your ventures, because again, people can understand and say, hey, man, I would love to see what Mike's doing with this Travels by Mike. And again, you know, I'm going to be looking at new content that you put up and also sharing that content so that other people can see what you have to offer. So again, Mike, I thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has definitely been a very, very informative discussion interview from the comments, from just me listening.
Yeah.
And I thank you. I hope you stay safe out there, and we will definitely meet again soon.
I can't wait to see you again. Thank you for having me on the platform. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll talk soon.
Absolutely, everybody. Have a good night. Peace, and stay safe.